I definitely already filmed this intro, but I'm pretty sure I deleted it. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing a Raid My Shelves reading vlog. Before we get into anything bookish, however, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me what is one author whose work you are interested in checking out again. This is another reading vlog where I am reading my shelves. This basically came about because I need to get better about reading the books on my own TBR. This time around, my theme is thriller authors whose work I've previously enjoyed. Now, for both of the books I'm going to be reading in this video, both of these authors I have read more than 2 of their books and really enjoyed them. Not sure about how these books are going to go, however. First up is Survive the Night by 𝗖cie his𝘁𝘁. I have heard pretty mixed reviews on this one. Some people have given it 5 stars, some people were giving it 2 stars. I don't know where I'm gonna fall on that, but I am hopeful that because I've heard all the negative reviews already, hopefully that means my expectations going into this are on the lower side and we have nowhere to go but up. Although I don't like going into my thrillers knowing too much, I do know that this one is following our main character whose roommate at college recently was killed by the campus killer. She is desperate to go home and ends up picking up a cardboard thing, like one of those little tabby thingies. Basically, she ends up catching a ride via a old school rideshare program because this is actually set during the 90s. Midway through the ride, however, of course, she starts to be concerned that the man in the car with her is actually the campus killer. Like I said, pretty mixed reviews. 𝗖cie his𝘁𝘁𝘁 is one of those who 2 of his books I really enjoyed. I have another book that I was kind of middle of the road with, and then his first book, Final Girls, I was not a fan of. I don't know where this is gonna fall, but hopefully I will enjoy it at least as much as I liked The Last Time I Lied. If I really want to be positive, I would like it as much as Lock Every Door, which is my favorite. I have no idea where that's going to go though. On the opposite side is The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I have read both The Broken Girls as well as The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James and really enjoyed both of them. She does a fantastic job of altering timelines and then putting in a paranormal element within her mysteries. Like I said, I've read 2 of her books previously, so I'm assuming this one will also have that dual POV as well as the possible paranormal element in it. I know this one we are following a young woman who is some kind of a true crime blogger, and I think she gets the opportunity to interview this woman who was accused of a crime in the past. That's about all I know. I actually finally did a little bit of research into this, but not a lot because, again, I don't like knowing too much going into my thrillers. However, I am very hopeful for this one. I loved The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, so maybe I will have a new favorite that will even top that. Alright, so these are the 2 books I'm going to be reading for this video, and I will talk to you guys again when I have started into one of them. Hey y'all, so I have officially started into Survive the Night. I am actually at page 103, and I am enjoying this. I think the author has done a good job of setting up the setting at the college campus where the book starts. Definitely took me back to my college days, but the atmosphere he has done in establishing this in the 1990s has been very strong. I think he has done a great job in dropping hints to different pieces of culture. He's done a good job at mentioning fashion trends. The setting within the car now, definitely unsettling, pretty creepy, kind of on the edge of my seat. I didn't really want to listen to this when I was driving home this afternoon just because I had kind of a stressful day at work and I was like, I don't know if my brain is ready for that kind of emotion at the moment. The characters in this, Charlie, I don't particularly like being in her head. I think she is a mix of being very naive, being pretty young. At the same time, she just doesn't have a very strong backbone. She's super introverted, and I'm just kind of having a difficult time relating to her and sympathizing with her. She does feel incredibly guilty that her friend Maddie was murdered by the campus killer, but she also is kind of angry at her. At times she says comments that come across a little victim blaming. I don't know if that was purposeful to kind of showcase the complexity of her emotions towards Maddie's death, or if that might have just been a unfortunate slip on 𝗖cie his𝘁𝘁𝘁 part, which if it was, ew. That being said though, we do see Maddie in some flashbacks and she is a eccentric girl. She's pretty wacky. She dresses up very reminiscent to characters from history and big name pieces of film. The audiobook narrator actually gives her this accent that's reminiscent to like a high-class 1950s lady, and it's so odd. All I can think is, this is a 20-year-old.
This is a 20-year-old. Oh, speaking of films, I forgot to mention Charlie actually has some kind of a illness which makes her an unreliable narrator because she occasionally has hallucinations, which she calls movies, in her head, and she has a hard time distinguishing whether they are real or false. Sometimes they can kind of be a blend of the two. An interesting way to make an unreliable narrator, but I don't know if it's the most realistic. We have seen a few instances of those happening, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think the moment I just passed where Charlie actually had a very, very valid reason to hop out of the car, actually leave, but then suddenly there's like this quick shift in the tone and then the chapter ends. And so I'm curious to see if that was actually a movie playing out. It's pretty odd, but I do think it could be an interesting device moving forward. I'm not sure, we'll see. As for our killer character, I don't know if I would say I'm terrified of him, but I am definitely uneasy. I'm unsettled. The fact that Sager has done such a great job of establishing the anxiety within Charlie and then showcasing that within the writing, it's definitely infecting to me. This is also definitely very fast-paced moving. It does all take place within a single night, although there are occasional flashbacks. For the most part, I mean, we mostly stay in the one timeline. I'm moving through it quickly. He's also done a interesting thing of having the layout of the book be, where do we go? Like, I'll have a time and then they establish the setting for what is taking place, and I think that's pretty clever, particularly since film is such a strong aspect of the story, with Charlie being a film major and then her having the movies in her head. He's even done an interesting thing where he will highlight certain words which the main character sees that are very big signs to her. It's like he wants to showcase them to us in the same way, where they are big and bold. I think it's very interesting that he took up the page section to actually do that as well. So yes, thus far I am enjoying this. I heard from somebody I think it might have been 𝗖cie heç𝘁 who said that she liked majority of the book. So I'm assuming that means she probably didn't like the ending, and like I said earlier, there's been a lot of talk about this in both positive and negative lights. I'm very interested to see which category I'm going to fall into. Thus far though, I would say we're off to a strong start. I don't know if this will be a new favorite of Sager's for me, but hopefully I won't dislike it as much as I disliked Final Girls. Hey guys, so I've done it. I finished Survive the Night. I don't know how I went into this with such low expectations, and yet by the end I was still disappointed. Actually, you know, I think it's because this starts off pretty strong. Like, I was pretty into the beginning of the book. However, once we hit like the 60% mark and we get the reveal of the driver and like the initial explanation to what's gonna happen to Charlie in regards to like all of these events, it just felt way too out there for me. It was really unrealistic. I was talking to a few other booktubers about this book, and some people mentioned like that just kind of highlights the campiness of it, and I guess that's true, but like I just wasn't sold on it. I don't know, the motivations for everyone felt pretty thin and they just like lacked logic to me. I wasn't really into that. The final reveal in terms of what's going on with the killer, like the campus killer character that we are told about from the very beginning, I actually didn't expect that twist. I liked it. I think it made sense. So I did enjoy that aspect. And then there's this like final reveal that I guess you could call it a reveal in the last chapter, which adds this extra layer to the entire story and makes you rethink certain situations. I did like that. I think it was clever on Sager's part of doing that, but there's a specific element with it that I really hated. Writing that just screams to me that this book was written by a man. Did not enjoy it. I also just want to say something I really didn't like by the end of this book is that Maddie, Charlie's friend who was killed by the campus killer, is such a driving force in the story, and her friendship with Charlie, which has made such a lasting impact on Charlie. I just didn't like it because Maddie was not a good friend to her. It's a terrible thing. It is an awful thing that Maddie died, and the circumstances around it. I can understand why Charlie felt guilty about it, but like, she was not a good friend. It just really annoyed me in particular because of a certain section in the middle where it was just like, no, this, like, she was not a good friend to Charlie. She was constantly trying to change her, like forcing her out of her comfort zone. And I think there's a difference between like helping your friends get out of their comfort zones and forcing them out of it and then being mad at them when they're not happy about it. Like, I don't know, that's just like, female friendships is something I get really into in stories, and I did not like how it was done here. I think that's another thing that showcases to me that this was written by a man and not a woman. Didn't like that either. The climax, super high intensity. I do like that Sager is able to create such anxiety in me, the reader. I think he does a fantastic job of creating suspense throughout his stories. He really does write fast-paced, have to continue reading its stories. I did finish the entire like climax area in one sitting because I just couldn't stop. I think that part of it, Sager still did pretty strong in here. I also do think the whole movie element with Charlie that made her an unreliable narrator just ended up being really convenient. It was original in terms of making someone an unreliable narrator, but again, it felt really convenient, unrealistic, and by the end it kind of just like got written off in a very dumb way. Yeah, I was like, was that really necessary? I did run this through Compile, and like I said, I think it had a strong start, but there's just a lot of things that happened throughout the story that I did not enjoy. Also, I just had such a hard time being in Charlie's mindset, so a lot of the time when I would be reading this, I would already be in this negative mindset, so I would get even more frustrated when certain things wouldn't go the way I was hoping they would go. Kind of take my review with a grain of salt, but also I'm clearly not in bad company. Many people were pretty disappointed by this. My Compile rating broke down to about a 2.75 stars, so officially I'll give it a 3-star rating. I'll round up. It's a low 3 stars. I was hoping that I would be able to keep this one on my shelves because I bought it when I was visiting Colorado, but honestly, I think it's gonna get unhauled. That's a shame. On the opposite side though, I have started into the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I am currently 68 pages into this. Already I am hooked. I think she has done a fantastic job right out of the gate of setting the scene. We are in this small coastal town. It is in the middle of the mountains. There's woods everywhere. I just love that she already gave us this perfect setting for a story like this. I also really appreciate that the main character in this is a true crime fanatic. I think having her be what's the term? An armchair detective makes for a very easy self-insert if you are a true crime lover, which I am, so I really appreciate that. There is this whole backstory with our main character, which I've kind of been exposed to, but also don't know the whole story. I'm sure that will build and we'll get some grand reveal later on, and so that'll probably separate me from the character. Thus far, I am really enjoying her. Our main character's name is Shay. Like I said, experienced something when she was younger, but she's a true crime fanatic. She runs this website called the Book of Cold Cases, and one day at her day job, she actually ends up seeing this woman who was believed to be a killer in the small town during the 70s. However, the woman ended up getting acquitted, so technically she was never charged, but if you listen to the rest of the town, pretty much everybody believed she was guilty. So with that, I also like that the mystery we're looking into is about a spree / serial killer that's a woman, because that's pretty unusual. I bet that's gonna be fun to watch as the story unveils continuing forward. Also, this is just like something so small, so dumb, but it made me laugh a lot. At one point, Shay comments something about being a true crime fan, and she says it in a way of just like every other girl who owns a copy of Small Sacrifices. You mean this book right here? So yeah, that made me laugh. That made me laugh a lot because that's on my TBR. So with this one, off to a strong start, but to be fair, we were off to a strong start with Survive the Night also. By the end, I was not loving it. So here is me hoping that this will go better. For the most part, I've heard pretty middle of the road reviews, but maybe because I'm reading it following this, I'll like it more. We'll see. We can hope. This beautiful little puppy. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Hey guys, so I am at page 192. I honestly probably should have updated prior to now, but I didn't. I am having quite a good time with this. I'm working through it pretty quickly. I'm actually working through this faster than I did Survive the Night, even though I think the pacing in Survive the Night was actually quicker than this one. I think the story in this just has me more engrossed. I do enjoy that we are seeing from Beth's perspective now. We see from her in the past timeline as well as the current timeline, definitely giving me major Evelyn Hugo vibes. Also, I think somebody commented that it's kind of similar to like Home Before Dark as well. I don't know if I would quite put it at that, because technically in Home Before Dark, the alternate timeline is not 100% truth, whereas in this one, the alternate timeline is us uncovering the truth. I also like with this one that we actually see the impact Beth has on 𝗖, since we're alternating their perspectives. Since 𝗖 for most of her life has been more of an introvert, keeps to herself, doesn't take any big chances, whereas Beth is definitely like, do what you want, people are gonna judge you one way or another, it doesn't really matter. So because of that, 𝗖 finally takes the chance and sorta asks a guy on a date, kind of like, it's more complicated than that, but also she's taking a page out of Beth's book, and I like that. I like seeing the dynamic between the two of them and the influence they're now having on one another. The atmosphere continues to be incredibly strong throughout this, which I really enjoy, particularly whenever we are in the Greer mansion, Beth's house. It's just so creepy, it's unsettling, but at the same time, I can perfectly visualize everything in my mind. Like I said, I am moving through this pretty quickly, and I did recently hit a fairly big reveal. Given how far into the book I am, I really don't know if we've learned a lot in terms of the crime. Like, the reveal that happened is pretty big in terms of who did it, but like, I'm so confused as to what possible motive they have. I guess it's hard to actually ask for a motive when the killer is possibly a psychopath. We might not even get a motive, but I hope we do. I also think with this one, it has been a while since I've read Simone St. James's other books, but I feel like the paranormal element in this is a lot stronger than it was in the other two. In Sundown Motel, I felt as though the paranormal element was more like just to spook and creep you out, but like, I didn't think it really played a major part in trying to solve the mystery. Maybe I'm misremembering that though. In terms of The Broken Girls, I really don't think the paranormal element played that strong of a role, but it's also been 4 years since I read that book. Take that comment with a grain of salt. Basically, my point boils down to, we're seeing a lot of ghosts in this, and I am not mad. I'm actually super into it. Yeah, so for the time being, I am still really enjoying this. I am gonna take that one over there on a quick, and I will continue listening to the audiobook of this. I think in terms of the audiobook, I have like 4 hours left. That might not be right. I'm a little more than halfway in now, I think. But basically, my goal is to try and finish this tomorrow. I would love to have this finished by tomorrow. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but we shall see. Hi friends, I have officially finished out the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James, and I kind of get why this has gotten pretty middle of the road reviews, because if I'm being completely honest, that ending fell kind of flat. I'm pretty upset about that. Simone St. James definitely held true to her previous 2 books in terms of creating wonderful tension and this fantastic creepy atmosphere with the whole paranormal element. As I think I mentioned previously, the paranormal element in this one is a good deal stronger than I remember it being in her 2 previous works I've read. She also interwove the 2 timelines that we were following perfectly. I think the tension that builds between both of them is very well done. Although we do have a twist that happens around like the midway point, and I did not see that coming. I did enjoy that twist. I think I was just a little disappointed that after that happens, we don't really see Beth, our main character in the current timeline, trying to solve the mystery anymore. So there's not really any more of that investigative feel to the story. We see her trying to find evidence to corroborate with the things she has been told now by Beth. She's still not really trying to solve the mystery anymore, and I was a little disappointed with that. The climax was definitely creepy once we finally hit that point. With that being said though, the way the climax was handled and the final reveal of the events that took place felt kind of convenient. I don't know, it seemed sort of like a cop-out, and I just wasn't a big fan of how that was handled. I think it would have been more interesting if we had watched Beth continue to put the pieces all together and then come to the final conclusion herself. Yeah, I'm trying not to like spoil this, but I just was not a fan of how that was done. On top of that, this does kind of have that whole Evelyn Hugo feel.
feel, where we follow one woman who is describing the events of her life to this other woman, and then eventually the two stories kind of intersect to explain why the older woman chose this person to tell her story to. I also wasn't really a big fan of the reasoning we were given. Like, I understood it, I totally followed the connection, I got the line of thinking, but it just felt very small and pretty thin. I don't know, I just think there could have been a better explanation as to why Beth chose Shay to tell her story. That was kind of a letdown. I do like that in terms of the very end of the book, once we have surpassed the climax and we are in more of the epilogue territory, we get to see what comes of all of the characters we've been introduced to. I did like that. I like that we were able to see the impact that Beth had on Shay's life, very similar to how we saw Evelyn's impact on, what was her name? Monique's life in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So all in all, I did enjoy this. I ran it through Copile and did a breakdown. I think it came out to about like a 3.85. I'm not sure if I liked it enough to bump that to 4 stars, honestly. I think it's more equivalent to like a 3.75. I'm really splitting hairs with both of these books, and I think it's just because I expect more from these authors since I've had such positive experiences with the both of them in the past. I expected a lot from Simone St. James. This is the 3rd of her books I've read, and I was really thinking I was gonna love it. While I did enjoy it, she did a great job for majority of the book, but I think she just didn't really stick the ending all that well. Okay, y'all, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials linked in the description if you're interested in keeping up with what I am reading. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!